Saruman, I don't think he likes it too much when people who he considers his underlings kind of push back against his council.
Which is everybody.
Which is a big red flag came in the scene where Gandalf goes to visit Denethor.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
Denethor says
that's one of my notes. Yeah.
Denethor says that Saruman has been looking through all these old scrolls. So what's he looking for? What's Saruman looking for? In fact, I have a... So let's just look at this scene in Council of Elrond where Gandalf is trying to figure out if the ring is actually Isildur's Bane. He goes to check out the scroll room in Gondor. And before we talk about this scene, which is very interesting, before we talk about it, though, I want to acknowledge the fact that this is the scroll room scene that the Rings of Power scroll room scene with Galadriel was trying to be and never could be because that scene was stupid.
Yeah, but they already did that scene in Lord of the Rings. You know what I'm saying?
Well, this is that scene.
Oh, I know. Can I point out something really quick, though, before we get into this, before we do a deep dive? He was probably like, oh, shit. We need to like have somebody read the inscription. So how can we do that? You know what I'm saying? So hence like the Isildur going and hanging out in Minas Tirith and Gondor for a little bit. So anyway.
So what do you mean? Like, oh, how did Gandalf know that inscription was the
origin? Like Gandalf would never know the inscription existed because Isildur and Sauron were the only people that ever touched the ring, right? So
and Gollum doesn't like fire, so he would never get the ring hot.
So Gollum would never know that there was obviously that an inscription existed. So and this might be where Gandalf started to suspect Saruman of not really being on the up and up when he knew about all the rings. He knew that there the three had their each ring had their own gem.
Yeah.
But the one didn't have any markings on it. It was rather plain, yada yada yada. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
the one was plain.
Right. And Gandalf didn't think about it until he's like, wait a minute. You know, how would this Yahoo know that there was writing on the ring? You know what I'm talking about? So it really kind of set up a whole lot of things, to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. There's so many things kind of coming together in this moment that describes people we haven't really met yet in the book, like Denethor.
Right.
But it just really shows the... Well, first of all, I just want to say that everyone's got a reason to be there.
Yeah.
And to contrast that again with Rings of Power, where this just happened to end up in a scroll room where we just happen to find information that we don't even know we're looking for.
That will never not be funny. Sorry.
I know. I'm sorry. I will keep doing it. With that thought, I forsook the chase and passed swiftly to Gondor. In former days, the members of my order had been well received there. But Saruman most of all. So Saruman's been in Gondor many times and is well received. Often he had been for long the guest of the lords of the city. Less welcome did the Lord Denethor show me than of old.
Right.
And grudgingly he permitted to search among his hoarded scrolls and books. Now, hoarded, like precious, is another word that Tolkien does not use lightly.
No.
I think didn't Tolkien write about this sometime, like the idea of a dragon's hoard? A dragon will just without any appreciation of what he actually is hoarding.
Yeah, he just wants stuff.
He just wants more and more and more. It literally is the foundation of his ego, the hoard that he keeps under him or whatever.
It's kind of like, I can relate to that with guitars, preamps, and microphones.
Right. Everyone's got their own little thing, their own little gear fetish.
If I could sleep on my stuff, I would. but I can't. So
you should try
anyway.
that. You should actually like.
I have. Doesn't work.
But when Tolkien uses the word horde and hoarded, and he uses the word in a few interesting ways, but it's always like,
yeah, dragon horde.
But like it's just a red flag of like, this guy is not to be trusted because he keeps a horde. You know,
and you know what he did he use that to describe some of the dwarf treasure?
probably.
Or was that
they hoard their treasure too. It's just like an unappreciative like need to just keep things for your own satisfaction or self, rather than. I mean, but actually, in the case of Denethor, he probably knew a lot of what was written in those because he's known as being a quite shrewd and wise and cunning individual, and he knows a lot. But a lot of that's from his connection or access to the palantír.
Right. But the interesting thing to kind of show the difference between Saruman and Denethor is like Denethor was strong-willed enough, right, to not be enslaved by Sauron, where Saruman was.
You do get a sense that Denethor's quite a strong individual, and he was not a pure slave. But though Denethor wasn't enslaved by Sauron,
he was influenced.
He was influenced to be just a pessimist.
Right. I mean, and again, like you know, as we'll find out later in this book, I mean, he like, you know, Denethor was Sauron's enemy, but Sauron played him like a fiddle, so to speak. You know what I'm saying?
So he's hoarding the scrolls, but he grudgingly permits Gandalf to see the scrolls. Now that makes me think that maybe because Saruman, he says Saruman already comes to look at these scrolls himself, right?
Yeah.
And or at least it's implied here. Oh, and it says so explicitly later. But the fact that like Denethor lets Saruman look at the scrolls, but he grudgingly permits Gandalf to look at the scrolls. It almost makes me think like, has Saruman been whispering to Denethor like, don't trust that Gandalf fella?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he did. I mean, like subtext, yes. Like, you know, he's like, and it probably started off like, hey, Denethor, don't you think Gandalf's kind of weird?
Right.
What do you mean? No, I mean, look, he's a good guy. He's a good guy. Don't
get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. But just hey, watch out for that guy. He's a little cuckoo.
But don't you think, like, you know, like he comes here, he asks for something. Has he ever given you anything in return? Like, what is that guy actually?
It's like turning him against him. But so let me just read where it explicitly says what I just. It said, if indeed, this is Denethor, if indeed you look only, as you say, for records of ancient days and beginnings of the city, read on. But unless you have more skill even than Saruman, who has studied here long, you will find naught that is not well known to me, who am master of the lore of this city.
All right.
Oh, so Saruman has been studying there long. And you know that, okay, so Saruman has a palantír, Denethor has a palantír. They're both looking in these lore scrolls.
Right.
They're looking for the same thing. Well, at least Saruman is. I don't know that Denethor is looking for the ring, but I think Saruman is clearly looking for the ring.
Okay, Saruman is clearly looking for the ring because he makes his own ring.
Oh, right. He had a ring.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, where'd you get that ring?
Yeah, nice ring.
Nice ring, bro.
Yeah, shame if something happened to it.
Right here.
He wore a ring
right in the middle.
right there.
I rode to Orthong, the state of Saruman, and he met me. He led me up his high chamber. He wore a ring on his finger.
Right. So again, did he find any kind of ring making instructions in Gondor?
He might have. I mean, that's probably what he was looking for. Yeah, he's probably dabbling in all kinds of zany arts.
Right. It's like, I'll make a ring. Like, it's just weird though, because like you can see that this sets up that he is looking for the ring. That more than anything, that he wore a ring on his finger, and
Hmm.
again, it never really explained if that added to his power, like in much the way that or in the same way that when like Sauron dumped a lot of his power into the ring to amplify his power. I mean, there was like
Right.
again precious, like the cost that's precious to everybody. So the
Right.
cost of the ring was like all of his power went into the ring, which I mean,
Yeah.
talk about putting
Clearly,
all
he
your eggs
wants
in one
to.
basket, but
Clearly, Saruman. I mean, all this stuff plays into the same. It fits the pattern, right? Because
yeah,
Saruman he's building a ring. He's studying the same kind of like esoteric occult arts that Sauron like studied in Eregion with the Celebrimbor,
right,
the Second Age or whatever. Um, and also now Saruman is building his new orc army. He's got his ring. He's basically wants to be a competitor. He's got the anarchist
yeah,
cookbook version of like how to be a dark lord.
right.
You know what I mean? And he's like, "Oh, I just need to build an orc army and not get a ring, sit on my throne in the top of my
Check.
tower." Check.
Yeah, like it's like orc army, check. Ring, check. Robe of many colors, double check. um, next step, Dark Lord. Hey, quick question though. Let me speculate a little bit. So the Gandalf and the Order of the Mire were not in Middle Earth when Isildur cut the ring from Sauron's finger, right?
Right. Didn't they come at the beginning of the Third Age?
Ish, yeah. I think it's that
Yeah.
1000 third age as to make sure that Sauron didn't, rise up. But do you think half of the appeal that for Saruman was the fact that he never actually saw how much destruction the ring actually did? You know what I'm talking about?
Mm.
Like he wasn't around, you
Right.
know,
Right.
Sauron is in his heyday. It's like so maybe he didn't know how
Yeah.
evil
But
the
he
ring
must
was.
have known through legend and lore of like how.
Right, right, right. But look, man, we know through legend and lore that heroin is very bad for you, right?
But people
Yet
still take it.
yet there's people who are like, you know what? It sounds really good right
Yeah.
now. Heroin. You know what I'm talking?
Right. Right. Mhm.
It's like it's like the romanticized notion of how powerful something is and how destructive it could be. You know,
Yeah.
again, no, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
just
Yeah. So what that's true, and I think all that stuff points to the fact that Saruman has been kind of going down this road for quite a
yeah,
while.
yeah,
And another thing that I just noticed is how close the two events are. The first event being Gandalf in Gondor looking in the scroll room, and this right here where he's in prison in Orthanc.
yeah.
They're not that far apart. Like
Oh,
he's
really?
in Gondor looking in the scroll room in the year 3017, and then midway through 3018, he's here in prison in Orthanc. And when he in 3017, when he's in Gondor, Denethor's like, yeah, Saruman comes here all the time and is pouring through
Yeah,
these scrolls, so he's up to something. Yeah, it's very suspicious.
yeah, 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 yeah,
You know, he counseled that, oh, this ring is lost, and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it
yeah,
fell into the
yeah,
Anduin and was out at sea. But
yeah.
I
It's
think that was just like a decoy. Like he wanted everyone to think that, whereas he knew that it actually wasn't lost. You know what I mean?
yeah, but and I think he probably knew where it was kind of at. He was trying to find it. Because again, I think like he wanted order. I mean, like he explicitly stated, it's like if we get rid of Sauron, we can kind of be these benevolent
Yeah.
rulers here, and we can rule over
Right.
everybody.
Right.
You know.
One more thing about Denethor. So his wife, Finduilas,
Yeah.
died in 2988, which is, quite young. That's when he starts to turn a little bit dark, and he goes into his white tower,
Yeah.
and he just kind of broods in his white tower. So you imagine like the kind of the downfall of Denethor over time, just like he's brooding in his white tower. He's got his palantír, he's got his scroll room, and the palantír is kind of showing him like, oh, there's this rising threat, and he's, like you said, like even though Sauron doesn't like actually enslave Denethor, he enslaves him in the sense that he makes him like almost have this pessimistic view of life, like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Oh,
all
he
for
drove him mad.
nothing. Yeah, like despair. He's despairing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I
And
think he's like definitely is probably keen on. Sorry, I just think like I imagine it being like a conference call,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because he's got a palantír, Saruman's got a palantír, Sauron's got a palantír, and they're like conference calling each other, like, update on this quest for the ring.
Hey, remember three-way calling back in the day?
Yeah.
Call Brandon.
Put him on the line.
Yes. Yeah, but
Anyway.
again, it would depend on what. Again, maybe like when we actually get to like more of the Palantir stuff, and when they actually get to Isengard and actually like capture the Palantir, maybe we'll do a little bit more of a deep dive into like the actual mechanics of what they do. But I was like, I'm kind of led to believe that you can connect the scene stones together, but you can also like take them and use them wherever, and that's what, like, because
right. It's not that they just see into each other like they're a Zoom call. Like you can see, like, yeah.
But
kind of like the mirror of Galadriel. It can show you a lot of things.
But again, like in later chapters, Gandalf was like, Saruman was going further and further and further and further towards Mordor, like, studying like the dark arts. He was like, basically he was studying like the devices of the enemy, of
Right.
and then he was probably like, yeah, this like
is cool.
Like, no, it's like, this guy is deplorable, but
that's what I'm saying. Like he started thinking like, hey, maybe he's onto something here.
Yeah. So, and again,
and maybe to his credit, maybe at first it was like, I'm studying my enemy to learn,
how to defeat him.
You're supposed to know thy enemy, how to defeat him. But gradually it was like, oh, maybe I don't want to defeat this guy. He's kind of cool, actually.
Like, oh, I want to defeat him, but God damn it, do I respect him? And again, like the Palantir, I wonder if, again, I've never, I haven't read anything that would imply that, but there's got to be some kind of, like communication going on between Isengard and Gondor, considering at this point, no one thinks that Saruman is the enemy. They're still, like, up until the White Council and this happened,
right?
Or not the White Council, the Council of Elrond. Like everyone's like, hey, what happened to Saruman? Why isn't he here? I was like, well,
right.
Question.
Yeah. And I think that's also why Denethor was deceived, because, I mean, potentially, it's never stated explicitly by Saruman, because, Denethor, still being a pretty upstanding good guy, wanting to fight against Sauron, Saruman comes and checks out his scroll room and is like, hey, don't trust Gandalf. And Denethor has no reason to not trust Saruman. So he's like, hey, Saruman's a good guy. I'm going to listen to Saruman and not trust Gandalf, because maybe Gandalf's up to no good. So it's like this very political thing where, like, Saruman's turning all these would-be allies against Gandalf, Denethor, Theoden, all kinds of people.